right, I'm here with Devon, founder of EarlyAdmit, who recently got acquired for six figures. Devon, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Andrew. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So for those that may not know you, do you want to give just a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, of course. A little bit about myself. In college, I studied behavioral science and finance, and I was very curious to learn a little bit more about the intersection of both of those things. And so after college, I joined a private equity firm based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and they primarily invest in enterprise SaaS and branded consumer products, which was what I was really interested in was sort of the intersection of both of those. It was traditional growth equity, so Series B to Series D. Writing check sizes between 20 to $40 million. And I spent 3 years at that firm and learned a lot. And so I did EarlyAdmit on the side. And then about 8 months ago, I decided to depart from that investment firm and go and launch my own venture capital fund called Meridian Ventures. And I'm currently a first year student at Harvard Business School right now.
Wow, I went to Chico State. Unfortunately, Harvard did not accept my application. I feel I'm on the lower side of IQ here. But congrats on all the accolades, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So what made you what interests you about entrepreneurship? You were in venture capital, you're at Harvard now, and then you built EarlyAdmit. What made you, want to kind of jump in and build a startup?
Yeah. So I think that entrepreneurship is somewhat innate to me. It's rolling through the blood. I've been very entrepreneurial curious since a little kid. When I was young, I grew up in a single parent household in Washington State, and that situation really caused me to have a lens of how to create value. And so I was 11 years old, Andrew, when I remember going to the dollar store and I went and purchased raspberry thin mints, peanut butter truffles, and I went and created a sales script. And I would go around the neighborhood and I would knock on the door and I would have this big smile on my face and I would sell candy for a profit. And that was really the cusp of this excitement to want to create value and really be a salesperson. And so I took that with me kind of into different settings and started to try to find ways where I could create stuff for other people. And that led me ultimately after college and undergrad to starting EarlyAdmit.
That is an awesome story. I would do funny stuff like that. I guess it's not funny, but like I would sell baseball cards. I had an eBay store, like really young. I think there's some breed of entrepreneurs that just start really, really early, and
Yeah.
the bug just never leaves you. So that's awesome to hear. Tell me about just so people know, EarlyAdmit. What does it do? What problem does it solve? And why'd you start it?
Yeah. I'll start with the problem statement and then kind of walk through a little bit of the business model. But when I was admitted into a fairly new and unique program that Harvard Business School and other university systems alike offer called a deferment program. So you actually apply your senior year of college. And then if you're fortunate, you gain admission and then you have an opportunity to go and gain 2 to 4 years of professional work experience before matriculating to the full-time program. And so, when I was in college, I had this ambition of applying to HBS, and what I realized quickly was, first, let me back up. First, what I did was I wanted to understand how you get into HBS. For me, I was a first generation student, and so I didn't really know what that process looked like. When I was in undergrad, it was open enrollment. And so I would ask people who went to the University of Utah, who effectively made it to HBS. And many of them said, hey, you should consider hiring an admissions consultant. And so the next thing that I naturally did was I went and looked at admission consultants. And there were a couple of things that were pretty surprising to me. The first was that the cost was just unbearable. I mean, legacy admission consultants were charging north of $300 an hour. And quite honestly, that's just not a rate or affordable services and resources that many people around the world could afford. And so it was too expensive. A lot of the coaches looked the exact same. So there was a lack of diversity. these admission consultants were very selective with who they wanted. They were motivated by success rate. So if they could maximize that success rate, they were looked at as really the de facto player for customers to go to. And for me, I knew that that really caused this perpetual cycle of inequality. And so the last sort of problem here was that full-time consultants were focused exclusively on full-time applicants because the denominator is really what a consultant would care about. And so there's this new program called deferment, and the denominator is not that large. But in my mind, I looked at this as an opportunity for growth. I knew that these programs were really amazing, and that I believe that many university systems would roll them out. So I was viewing this as a wedge into the market. The business model when we went to market was focused on admission consulting services. So it was mostly a consulting service business when we started. As we grew that business, it really took on a new form. We offered, we expanded into other graduate school offerings. We expanded into career preparation. So if you're a college student looking to find employment post-graduation, we would help with that. And then, we even expanded in terms of not just going D2C, but creating an enterprise offering for university systems, which is fascinating as well. And we can kind of dive into that if you're interested about how to tease out admissions consulting. That's kind of some red tape for some of these university systems and create a product around that.
That I love how succinct of just the understanding of the problem. I don't know that much about college applications. I just applied and went to school. I don't know.
You went to Chico State.
Yeah, I just said I want to go there, and that was it. But I love just like also the mission too, because I can see it reminds me of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of reminds me of like the H-1B visa process, where it's kind of like a lottery, and so like there's not a lot of the success rate is really low, and it's really randomized. It's not really necessarily fair. I don't have strong opinions here, but to my knowledge, is that kind of similar to how the admissions process can work? Like it's opaque and sort of.
It is. Yeah, you're exactly spot on. And the issue with this idea that like we obviously know, right? Like if you can afford resources that help with a writing process, for example, that a key element and component of your application is how you write and how you can tell a narrative, that has like an actual impact and outcome. And so if there's a segment of people who can afford those services, then naturally the quality of their application is going to be higher than for people who just don't have access to those resources. And so again, this has a direct correlation with the type of demographic and diversity that we see at some of these elite business schools. And it was just important to me that that was democratized in a way that would allow and uplift more diversity at these big schools, because it all starts with education, Andrew. And then after that, we see real outcomes happening in corporate America.
Yeah, I think what you built is so noble. I mean, it just seems like this product, I looked at the numbers. There's obviously substantial like you helped a lot of people. Like getting into college isn't, it's, there's the argument of like, should you go to college or not? You should go to college. Yeah. But for the people that use your product, you help them get into a school in a way they might have not otherwise. Like that's incredible. Like you really had, just think about like if they never went to college because of you, like you may have had that outcome on someone. Anyways, I just think that's just incredible how you built that and you understood this and then built a solution for it. So my next question, I guess, would be, when did you really feel like did you ever have a moment when you felt like you like really had product market fit, where maybe you took a step back and you kind of said, there's something really here. Like I know you knew the problem, but you still have to get the customer. Was there like a moment or a place, or just anything where you just kind of thought to yourself, this could go somewhere?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was, you'll enjoy this. Did you ever? I don't know if you ever worked at Spiff out of Utah, but I was going to use a Utah phrase, which is I got a little ahead of my skis, in the sense that I built the product before building the business. So before anything was formalized, I had already had a product out there. And I took this product, effectively put it in the hands of customers for free, or who would otherwise be potential customers, garnered the feedback from them, and then iterated on it. And there were slight variations, I would say. But ultimately, I think that what our customer base wanted was a person who would take humility, inspire them, and really work with them to deliver a high quality outcome. And so I would say, like, PMF wasn't too complicated for us, but what was complicated, Andrew, was how we acquired customers. I'm more than happy to jump into that if you'd like.
Yeah. How did you get them? How did you get your first customers?
Yeah, it was scrappy. It was scrappy. It was like, I feel like I was going back knocking those doors again, but digitally this time. So it was a founder led outbound motion originally, and it was, either cold outbound on email, or I think a high success rate was going on social media platforms, and finding those target market customers. And then I would say over time that naturally morphed into, I would say, a more sophisticated model, which was we developed core practices in SEO. We really developed an online presence with social media, with content marketing that allowed us to create a lot of organic leads. And then we did a couple of things that I felt like were pretty unique. So one was just, this isn't unique, but one was like, as we were able to have more successful customers who had positive experiences with our product, then referrals and word of mouth really helped flywheel that network effect for us. But we, as a company, we went and hired about 75 campus ambassadors, is what we classified them as. And these were students that we interviewed. They were, what we wanted to solve for was someone who was extremely active on their campus, a leader, somebody who we knew was interested in going to business school at some point. And they acted as really an engine for acquiring customers for us. And we ran an affiliate program with them. So we effectively, any lead that they would bring in, we'd give them, some percentage of the sale. But they got us in front of massive audiences, and we had 75 ambassadors that represented unique institutions all across the globe. And so what that campus ambassador, we would have them on maybe a monthly cadence go to a club. They would do an event, and then they would bring us there, and then we would sell that product out for them. So that helped get that flywheel effect going. And so the combination of all those things, I think after year 2 of our business, really allowed us to grow and scale at a rapid rate.
I'm really impressed. Because it seems like you nailed so many different distribution channels, specifically the ambassador programs. I've invested in 2 college-based startups before, and both kind of stumbled onto an ambassador program, and that led to being kind of the most effective way to expand into other schools. And so I don't know if that was like you just kind of knew that would work, because the 2 situations that I know of, they kind of just sort of stumbled onto it. Was this like, were you like, hey, we need ambassadors? Or was it like, were you approached by students to be ambassadors?
It was a little bit of a stumble, to be fully honest. And it was, the stumble actually was fascinating. The stumble tended to be, we weren't just first movers in a market, Andrew, but we were creating this market. So you have a parallel process with the university system and then EarlyAdmit, and we were effectively parallel branding this new program. And so we needed a way that we could expand the market size. And so we actually used campus ambassadors as a way to help students understand about like this brand new 2+2 deferment program. And then we found ways to monetize that. And that was really important for us.
Man, hearing all of you say this makes me wish I bought this business. It feels like I love the mission. I love how the problem it solved, just the impact it had on people's lives positively, and then just your customer acquisition strategy sounds extremely sound. So bravo, man. This is your first startup, correct? That you built?
Yeah, this is the first startup, and I have to give a shout out to the team as well. By the way, like it definitely was not just the solo person here. This was
And
definitely a team
you're a
effort.
humble leader too. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I really hope you start another company. Because it's all you're doing all the right things from what I can tell. Selling into schools is super 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 hard. Like one of the other startups that I'm referring to, they just couldn't get past the like because there's a lot of bureaucracy at schools, as I'm sure you know. They eventually figured it out, but it took a long time. And it sounds like you were able to kind of get, to your first customers much faster than this other company I'm referring
Mhm.
to. But anyways, just I'm just very, very impressed at just how you put this all together. But now I want to talk about the acquisition.
Yeah, of
That
course.
that's where I want to hear this go. What made you like? How did you find Acquire.com, and what made you want to sell the business?
Yeah, so Micro Acquire was a gem, I think, like a hidden gem, actually, I would say.
Acquire.com. We dropped the
Acquire,
mic.
sorry. Yeah, so see, that's how early I was.
I know.
Acquire, which was a good move too, by the way, acquire.com. So it was a hidden gem. At the time, I think it was Acquire and then Flippa. But for a business at the scale that I was at, good luck kind of trying to go run a traditional sell process for that. I think typically in the business that we're in, if we were to go out to market to sell this business, this is like a business I would be doing like 5 million in EBITDA, or something like that, right? So I really love I think it was just a Google process, to be honest, or somebody referred it to me. I'm not sure. But in terms of your question about why sell EarlyAdmit, there were a couple of reasons why. First was business school was approaching for me.
That's what I was
And
gonna guess.
yeah, so business school was approaching for me, and I have a partner who actually ended up staying on before he goes to business school as well. But there was somewhat of a personal goal to take a company from 0 to 1, to build something and then to be able to see an outcome, I think is really rewarding. The other piece is there can be value created by who you choose to have acquire your business, Andrew. And so that was one thing that we said, hey, if we're going to sit in this competitive landscape, how can we continue to level up? How can we add value to customers? And we found a buyer that had a portfolio of e-commerce, content marketing, and online marketplace businesses. And this person was very business savvy. He had spent a lot of time in consulting. He had an expertise with respect to international that I think was an unlock for EarlyAdmit in the next growth trajectory of the business. And so when we saw that this buyer was interested, we felt like that there could be real synergies, not only with the portfolio, but with the fact that they could bring something very valuable from an information perspective to our business.
That's awesome. Tell me about the quality of the buyers that you met, because this individual just sounds like a perfect fit as an acquirer too.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't an easy process by any means. We had, I think, on the Acquire platform, we had about 75 NDAs over the time span of 4 to 5 months or so,
Jeez.
and we probably had about a 15%, like I would say, real engagement rate, like potential buyers who were actually interested and have conversations with. And then this buyer, it was another conversation, but what stood out to us was that this person knew the ed tech market. I believe their family had actually, their family is based in India, and they had actually acquired a university system out in India, and so
Oh,
they knew what
wow.
was good. Yeah, so they knew what was going on, and that immediately. I mean, if you're someone who builds a business and you want to pass that torch along, you really want to make sure that someone's going to take care of it. And I think that this person who had real experience in the market and specifically in this sector, that was a draw for me. So, and then we would talk about, in weekly settings, we would talk about their vision for the company. How can they take this to the next level through digital enhancements, and he was really good. He worked for a major consulting firm, and so like this wasn't his first rodeo. He'd also acquired other businesses, and then would think about how to effectively create synergies between those businesses. And I grew up in the investment world and spent time there, and I just felt like he was thinking about this in the right way. That again would, like, what you're solving for is value to customers, is what we believed.
That's awesome. I love how you found a buyer that can potentially take, what you built and help even more potential students with, the entry into college, all the roadblocks that they're hitting. It sounds like, this person, was like an ideal buy. I can't think of one that would be more ideal. So kudos to you for, number one, finding that buyer. And then also, I have to assume you cultivated a great relationship with them and him or her. And, there's definitely, potential in the future for this thing to continue to help students, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, he's great. He's great. He's still very, I mean, like it's him, and then it's two other managers from the organization that were there before, and they're chucking away at it. So they're doing really well.
Nice. Okay. One other question related to the acquisition process. What was your first impression when you listed on Acquire.com? Like, did you expect like 70 NDAs signed like that?
No. No, I didn't. I was, like you get that first one too, right? And you think your business is going to be sold right away, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's exciting, right? Like it was my first business. And so I was overwhelmed with like the number of NDAs, to be fully honest, or, these intents of interest, I would say. And I was really excited, Andrew. Like it demonstrated to me that, number one, we were building something that was important, and that people cared about it, and that there was some value that, some person out there felt like was being left on the table. And so now it was up to my team and I to go and deliver a message and a story to a potential buyer to see if that was the right fit. So yeah, I was very much excited by the active interest on the platform. So, and that's kudos to you, by the way, because you're creating a marketplace as well, and you have to have both that supply and demand to be successful. And had there not been really that supply side for me, then I would have just tried to go somewhere else, because you have to spend your time efficiently in a sell process.
Yeah, well said. Definitely, marketplace is tricky. You got to have the supply and demand both happy.
Yep.
But I also got to give kudos to my team. They do all the work.
There you go, paying it forward right there. I like that.
Yeah, well, I'm actually not technical at all, so I don't know how to engineer anything. What was I going to ask next? In terms of so you have a lot of experience just in startups, venture capital, investing. Now you've built a startup, you've been acquired. If you could give any advice to other founders that might be looking to sell their business, specifically on Acquire.com, what's maybe like 3 pieces of advice you'd give a founder looking to sell their business?
Yeah, I think the advice I would give is take the sell process seriously. If you've identified a goal of yours as a founder to go through a sell process, really conduct yourself and have a level of professionalism when you're creating. It's a strategy to some extent to effectively create a data room, create materials within that data room, understand metrics and analyses, and who is your buyer and what things do they care about, and what is, what may be customary in their world, and how can you align that to, to their process. That is really important, because you can have the best business in the world, but if you can't sell that business, it's not going to go anywhere. And so my first piece of advice and in fact, I actually left my investment firm to focus 100% on the sale of this business. I left Mercado Partners to go do that.
Wow.
And so I would say, take it serious. I think the second piece is you really do. And I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but like you really do need to do the due diligence on who the buyer is. It's very important if you've created a business and you want that to outlive yourself, it matters who you're choosing as a partner. because you may also be an advisor to that business, and you know have touch points going forward. And then I would say the last thing is, look, you started the business, you grew the business, the input and the foundation of that was hard work. And so the sale process is going to be challenging. It may not be for everybody, but it will be for some. And don't give up. Just like keep going. I remember days where we didn't get bites, and we were like, well, we're running at 40% profit margins. Should we just keep going and like not sell this thing and just like let the marketplace do what it does? Or should we continue forward? And we made an active decision that we would not give up. We were going to work hard, and we were going to find that right person. And it was just a matter of time. And that's what happened.
Man, you got the entrepreneurial spirit in you. I could feel it. I love it, man.
Thank you.
So thanks so much for sharing all this. I really appreciate just your story I feel inspired after just hearing all this and everything you've accomplished and where you're going. I guess my last question is, if people want to learn more about your story online, where could they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can email me at devon@meridianventures.co. They can reach me at LinkedIn. I have not memorized that URL, but just type Devon Gethers.
I'll put it down in the show notes for you.
Excellent. Those are like the best two places that I'll be responsive, and I'd love to meet anyone in there.
Awesome. Well, Devon, congrats on all your success, and good luck at Harvard Business School, man.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for letting me do this again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, review. All right, cheers, man.
All right, cheers.